got a couple things around this talk of marketing. I want to kind of expand on what we started to get into a little bit last week when we were thinking more campaign focused versus tactic focused, that kind of stuff. But I want to open it up to the floor first and see if you guys have anything specific, any questions, anything that you'd like me to kind of maybe touch on or cover in there, or something that you got going on that's really well. So open it up to the floor and see what you guys got first and go from there.
Well, we changed our message yesterday. We spoke with you about that, I think on Tuesday.
Yep.
And it seemed to have been okay. I mean, it had a little bit more interaction, and it was just like, hey, why did you choose to go not hire a realtor? And so people would engage a little bit more with that, and then, or they just would stop, hit the stop and then move on. So I think it was a better message. It just was a little lighter instead of coming straight at them. Hey, you want to know how to save? So then, Marie set that up, asked that question. And then the next one was, hey, do you want to see how we can save you too? So that helped.
On that note, are you tracking your conversion? Meaning conversion from, I sent 200 of these first messages out and you're saying, hey, I got a little better response. The messaging response was better, but what's the rate? What's that conversion rate, right? If I sent 200 out and I got 2 text messages back, I got pretty low conversion rate there, right? It's like 1% of my people. But if I send 200 out and I got 20 responses back, well, I'm at a 10% conversion rate on that message. Now, I'm asking that question. I know you're not tracking it, Liz. I've talked to you guys enough to know that, but I asked that question because it's going to tie into what I'm going to talk about later.
Okay, but that's a good point. But would you still track the stops? Would you still track
Absolutely.
the no's and the stops?
Absolutely. That's a conversion.
Yeah. And I do have to say, our FUs have gone down considerably, but after we said earlier where I went to 2 appointments this week and they blew me off, FU sounds better now than my time wasting that I've done. So
it's a higher level problem to deal with. That's
I know, right? I'm going to start charging them, or I'll give them something if they show up.
Hey, you're going to give them an offer. Anybody else?
No, wait, but real quick, on that note, that guy that blew me off on Saturday did text me again. And he had a sinus, whatever. And I said, fine, just send me your email, because if he sends me his email, we're just going to send him an offer. Because I went to the house and I know it's still standing. That was the big thing. For the price he said he wanted, we thought it was just going to be burned down. So now I'll just send him an offer.
Got it. Anybody else? Anything that they'd like to be discussed today or touch on, or that you got working on, or out of last week's? Sophia, late to the call, but ready to engage. Let's go.
So I was thinking about something, and because I was just testing like some email marketing stuff. And do you know how to avoid getting into the junk mailbox?
In emails?
Because, yeah, like if we're doing like email marketing, how can we avoid going straight to junk?
Yeah, I'll hit on that briefly. That would be a very in-depth training to do. There's a lot of factors when it comes to email marketing. What do I mean by a lot of factors? Everything down to literally the type of platform that the email's coming out of, being a major aspect of it. But some key things that are pushing to junk mail pretty quickly would be if you've got excessive amounts of links in your email. And sometimes I see this in signatures. It's like, hey, thanks, blah, 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 to your success, whatever your signature is. And then it's Sean Tiberio, Top Results Consulting, www.topresultsconsulting.com, www.reitoolbox.com, www.seantiberio.com, right? Click here for our podcast, click here for my ebook, click here for this, click here for that. All the email providers and all the email like inboxes out there look at excessive links as a spam aspect or as a marketing aspect. So they push it to junk. Now, junk on Google in the basic Gmail accounts, that could mean it goes to the promotions tab. That could be it goes to the social tab. Social's typically when it's a message coming from a social platform, but a lot of times it ends up in the promotions tab, or it ends up completely over in the spam folder. Okay. That's one thing that can do it. The other one is some of you guys use different platforms. We have it on Lead Vault, the more fancy HTML built out emails where it almost looks like a flyer when it comes out, right? With the logo and all these pictures and buttons and all this excessive HTML coding into an email. That's another one that'll push it to spam because again, they're trying to pick up on that more marketing type feel and getting it out of somebody's inbox. When you're doing email marketing, some of the best emails that actually land in inbox and convert well is think I'm emailing my friend or I'm emailing my family member. Plain Jane text-based emails that don't have a lot of fluff and fun stuff to it. That's kind of straight to the point, right? If I were to open up my email box and shoot Chris or Sal or Liz an email right now, I'm not going to send all that kind of stuff in it. Maybe I'll attach something to the email. But for the most part, it's going to be like, Liz, hey, da-da-da-da-da-da, right? And then maybe an attached file and my basic email signature that just, has stuff. When the email providers are looking at inbound emails coming, that's what they're looking at. Do you kind of already have a relationship with this person? Does it have that feel to it? Or are you trying to market to them? And if they pick up on it and they're getting smarter, the algorithms are getting smarter. Apple's even made a big change with iOS 15 in the email world. That's really shaking email marketing from Apple users. If you guys use like Apple Mail, the Mail app on Apple devices, that type of stuff, they're automatically marking it as open. They're automatically moving those things to other spam folder or other areas. It's not kicking data back to email platforms. So if I were actually like Decine Botanicals, our brand, our email open rates on our email marketing has dropped. But that's because I have zero data coming back from somebody like Apple telling me if they've been opened or not. So you've had to look at other metrics around it. But I can go, and I literally can do an hour-long training on this, just on email marketing itself. But Sophia, those are a couple things that I would encourage you to look at. If they're the overly fluffed, fancy HTML ones, or you've got an excessive amount of links because you're trying to get people to click on things in your email, those are notoriously going to spam or promotion type folders. Okay.
That helps. Thank you.
Yep. Okay. Anything else from anybody real quick? All right. Well, like I said, I want to pick up where we left off last week with this whole thought around campaign versus tactic when it comes to marketing and in this whole world. And I've got a couple slides, pictures. I'm going to share the screen here in a second and kind of show you and break it down. And it's more or less around this why think campaign versus just a single marketing tactic aspect. And it ties a little bit into sales, right? You guys have heard me say sales and marketing, they pretty much have to align. There's a huge overlap early in the customer journey to where sales is kind of doing the marketing's job. Marketing is kind of doing sales job until there's that actual engagement. To Liz's point, until they say whatever to that text, right? If they say stop, it's still converting. It's still into the sales funnel at that point. It's a dead prospect. Now, could you implement some things from a sales side to try to maybe bring them back? Absolutely. But those ones that don't say stop and actually answer you and kind of move forward, now we're into the acquisition side. We're actually into our sales side, which is the stuff we were talking about yesterday. However, just share the screen over here. Somebody give me a thumbs up that you see the diagram. Okay, Eric's got the thumbs up. Cool. So when we think campaigns, we're really thinking about follow-up. I'm not going to go through all of this. You guys can kind of look at this. I'm going to point out a couple of the stats And I've got two different photos here to kind of help drive home this point around the stat. The first one being that by the time we get here to the fourth contact, 89% of people, marketers, salespeople in this role, by the time you've gotten to a fourth communication point with a individual, with a prospect, 89% of people have already given up on that person. So I hear this a lot in the real estate world. You guys are probably experiencing it. It's freaking crowded. There's a lot of competition. There's a lot of people in your markets sending out the same type of marketing, the same tactics, right? Using the same stuff to get in front of prospects. The difference between somebody who actually makes that contact kind of worth something, moves that person through, it comes down to this campaign methodology where multiple touches. By the time you just get to the fourth side of it, you're pretty much one of the top 10% of people that are actually still trying to reach them. And as we shift down and we get into contact number 9, at this point, you've got about a 90% chance that you're going to actually make contact and move the needle, do something with this type of individual. So even though on contact 1, they text back saying stop, are they really saying stop marketing to me or stop texting me? This is the question you have to ask yourself. Because if I've pulled a list and I know this individual is in a situation based on the data, based on what I pulled this list on, they're just saying, stop texting me in my mind. So I can't text them. But does that mean I can't go to touch 2, touch 3, touch 4, right? Contact 2, contact 3, contact 4, all the way to contact 9? And they can't tell me to stop mailing to them. They can't tell me to stop knocking on their door. They can't tell me to stop putting signage in front of them. They can't tell me to stop targeting them digitally through other digital forms of marketing like PPC, retargeting on social platforms. But too often we get that word stop up here at contact 1, and you fall into this category where 50% of people are just like, no big deal, I'll stop. That's a dead lead. Right? I won't move any further. I won't do anything else. I don't want to piss them off. I don't want to irritate them, right? Now, look at this over here. Pay attention to this right side of this chart here. 2%, I've talked about this like crazy. 1 to 3% is what I say all the time. It's an average of about 2% of people, the first time that you talk to them, are actually ready to do business, ready to move forward. 2% on that first time that you talk to somebody are actually ready to go somewhere. Yet 5 through 12, by the time I get to the 5th to 12th time, that's where 80% of the business is done. So when we look at marketing from a tactical standpoint, I'm going to go put a bunch of bandit signs out. And then a month goes by and you're like, bandit signs suck. They don't work in my market. Nobody calls me. Well, that person, what if let's say they drove by your bandit sign once or twice. That's 1 or 2 contacts with them. That's 1 or 2 touch points, right? Well, they're down here. 1 or 2. They're in this 2 to 3% of people that see that. Now, if you had that bandit sign out for 6 months, and for 6 months, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times, that was the only thing they ever saw about you, was that bandit sign, it's going to convert a little bit better. Is this making sense so far? Kind of tracking what I'm throwing down here? So when we look at campaigns being this process of stacking tactics, we're really saying, hey, I'm building multiple contact points. So if I'm going to build a campaign around this probate list that I just bought, I want to have variations of my contactability, and I want to have a series, a number, and I know that on average, I need to at least have 5 at a minimum, because the bulk of business gets done after that point. But I go back over here and I tell you that by the time you get to like contact 8, contact 9, look at this, contact 8, you're probably the only person that's actually made 8 contacts with this prospect. The majority of your competition is cutting out before this point. So we get stressed about wanting to have everything perfect on the first go, right? Oh, I got to get that text message just right. What's the perfect message to send, Sean? Sean, tell me exactly what to say on the first text. I don't know, freaking say something. Worry about text 7, 8, 9.
Sean, question.
Yep.
Okay, I think, and I think a lot of people are thinking like this. When we get leave me alone, F you, or stop, we're concerned about continuing to call and put them in a do not call campaign. Or
if they answer me on a text that says stop, I'm reading this, right? If I've done my job right up front, and I know that I've pulled, let's say I pulled that list.
Right.
And I've pulled a list from a viable, credible source. And there's a criteria and a filter that has put that person onto that list. In my opinion, as a marketer, they need me. But who on here ever wants to be marketed to or sold to? Raise your hand if you're just like dying for somebody to market to you or sell to you. Nobody wants to be marketed to or sold to, right? Some people are faster to the trigger to say in a text message, they know, oh, I don't want these type of texts coming to my phone. Stop. Great. I'll stop texting you. Well, you told me to stop, so I also won't cold call you either. But you know what? I got your address. So let me take you to step 2 of my campaign, right? And for contact number 2, I'm going to throw a postcard at you. And contact number 3, I'm going to throw a handwritten letter at you. And contact number 4, I'm going to drive to your house and knock on your door. And contact number 5, I'm going to drive back to your house and put a I want to buy your house sign in your front yard. And contact number 6, I'm going to stand out there in a chicken suit at 8 a.m. in the morning when you're leaving for work with a sign that says, I want to buy your home. Obviously, that's like crazy, right?
Right.
But you get the point.
Yeah, I get the point. Some of the concern might be with some folks is, we hear about all these fines about do not call. We've gotten texts back and saying, I'm going to report you. And we know that, there's nothing to report, or they say, hey, I'm on a do not call, national do not call list. Well, that's for national marketers. It's not for us. So how do we calm ourselves down to make sure that we're doing the right thing?
You calm yourself down. So I don't disagree with you whatsoever. I get a text back that says, hey, stop texting me. Cool. I'll stop texting you. Well, I'm not going to stress about anything. But again, I go back to, if I've done my job right as a marketer, and I know that I'm marketing to people who legitimately need my service. In the real estate world, that means I've pulled a list, most likely. I've bought some data from somewhere. I've gathered that information myself. I drove around the market, right, and looked at ugly homes all over the place. There it is down there. If I've done all that right, then I know this person still needs me, right? And in the agency world, I pull lists in certain areas based on certain levels, based on number of closed transactions, these type of things that I can get my hands on with real estate companies or small businesses. Well, I know they need, I can build my own list. I can go on Houston, Google Houston real estate, and I go to page 2 and I start making a list of every company I find on page 2 because I'm going to target them. Well, I know they need my service because they're sitting on page 2 and we can help them get them to page what? 1, right? And maybe I find a phone number on their website and I try to shoot a text at it. And if somebody answers back, stop. Okay, cool. But guess what else was on their website? An address. There's also an email on there. There's also maybe a different phone number. Maybe there's the profiles of the other, of the actual owners with different information. My campaign needs to have the multiple touch points through it, right?
So it's more about changing the tactics than it is not bothering to contact them anymore.
100%. I'm going to go wartime for a second here, right? 2005 in Iraq, 21-year-old Sean. We get assigned, hey, you're going to take this team. You guys are going to go drive out into this town. You got to clear this route. You're going to get to this grid coordinate. You're going to set up a cordon, and you're going to hold down security. SEAL teams, recon teams going to do this, this, and this. Here's your signal for extract. Cool. I understand my mission, right? Me and my team, we'd go to work. We drop the plan. Here's how we're going to execute that plan. Here's what we're going to do. Here's the order that the vehicles are going to go in. When we leave the wire, here's where the first checkpoint is. Here's what's going to happen at that checkpoint. XYZ, right? That's the plan. Second we left the wire. Do you think plan A always worked? Hell no. The second the first round got shot, the second the first thing went haywire, the second we were supposed to make a left and they've got the road blocked left and I got to turn right and try to re-navigate us, we're on to plan B, C, D, and E. The same's true in the marketing world. You sitting there, you bought this list, you skip traced it, and you're like, I'm going to cold call the hell out of these people until I get somebody to answer. And you go through the list and you cold call, and I get hung up on 27 times in one day. I got told F you 28 times this same day. 10 people threatened to sue me, and 5 of them told me they were going to report my number. Well, what do I do? I should say, what do most people do in the marketing space?
Chuck down boogie.
They boogie out.
They go, shit. Somebody's going to report me. I got told F you. We get beat down mentally, all this kind of stuff. And or what we hear is, yeah, Sean, I've tried it. Cold calling in my market doesn't work. I've tried cold calling people. I get hung up on all the time. That list was dead. That was bad data. Nobody on that list wanted to actually sell me anything. How many of you said that one or heard that one, right? It's just, hey, the plan was tactic A, cold call. But you went to make a left and the road was blocked. And you got to make a right now. Which means if I plan this as a campaign, I can move them to the next tactic. Now, taking this a step deeper, when we think campaign, we're also thinking not just the person that doesn't fit the mold, right? The person that gets the text and answers back with stop, but also what's the next contact for the person that got the text and didn't answer me? Right? That's why I asked Liz that question. Are we tracking the actual response rate? Or are we thinking about the people that didn't answer the first one? What's next? Is it another text? Is it a voice drop? Is it, hey, they didn't answer our text message? That's a good sign, in my opinion. They didn't tell you to go away. They didn't tell you to stop marketing to them yet, right? So maybe the next step is a call. Or maybe the next contact point is, hey, everybody that didn't answer, I'm going to shoot them a postcard with this type of message. Or I'm going to shoot them a letter with this type of message. Or I'm going to try to put them over into this over here. We're doing this right now with DeKind. We've got 2 really strong campaigns running at the moment. One of them's our first-time buyer campaign, and the other one's our multi-buyer campaign. We've got a pretty substantial, about 5,000 or so names in our database that we're marketing to. And I can tell you right now, there's about 2,000, a little over 2,300-ish that haven't bought, but they open every email I send them. Every email that goes out to them, they open it, they'll click on some stuff. Sometimes they'll go to the website, sometimes they won't, but they open the email, but they haven't bought. So we changed the message. We sent a totally different email and are doing some things from social media to try to retarget them as well, enticing them with, hey, And I called them out in this last email. We got killer click-through rate because of it. We called them out. I know you're opening our emails. I know you've looked at our products. I know that you haven't bought our product. Maybe you've bought another brand's. I want you to try ours. So I'm going to give you 3 options as a first-time buyer with us. You can get free shipping. You can get a discount, pretty significant discount, or you can get what we call the BOGO, the buy one, get one free. So that you can try a couple of our products kind of thing, right? Well, guess what? It made some of those people convert. Well, now they're on the I want you to buy more campaign, right? We just move them over here and are constantly running. And when we run sales, it's the same thing. We know we have a sale going out, but I'm going to run it from multiple strategies or multiple campaign aspects. And I know if I have a 5-day sale, I can't just send one contact, because go back to the stats, like 2% of people are actually going to buy. I've got to hit them 3, 4, 5, 6 times during that if I want them to convert and buy during that sale period, because it takes that many times in front of somebody to get that buying decision to happen. So an exercise that we're going to do here. Pick one audience, one piece of what you're trying to do. What do I mean by that? Some of you guys are targeting, actually, I'm going to use John as a really good example. You brought this up, I think, last week on our Wednesday call. Your audience of, hey, these are, I think you were doing out of state, or they're in state or out of state, but they own a second property, wasn't it?
Absentee owner, yep.
Yeah. So they own something. You're not sure if they're in state or out of state, but it's definitely a place that they don't live at, right? Take that audience and break down the different tactics, not how you're going to do it, not the messaging. Just make a list of, if I wanted to go after that type of audience, what are the different tactics that I could use? Some of you are a little different depending on your stuff. Lorraine's a great example of this. Her and I were talking about a very specific tactic that could be part of this overarching campaign: webinars. Inviting them to a webinar. If I can get them on the webinar, that's one touch. Right? That's a tactic piece. So just make a list of the different tactics that you're thinking. Good, Lorraine, I saw you on mute.
No, I was going to say I posted my flyer in the group too. I welcome any feedback.
In our group, you posted it?
Yep.
I have not been on social media today, so I will. I'll go take a look at that later.
Okay, thanks.
But I want you to make a list real quick of just some of these different tactics that you can use. This is kind of what we talked a little bit about last week. What are the tactics that you're comfortable using? What are the tactics that you can consistently do? Obviously, there's a lot of different stuff that could happen, but it comes down to what you're actually going to execute on. You know, like a tactic for me would be put a chicken suit on and go stand out in front of a homeowner's house. That is something I would do. That would probably be closer to tactic or contact 8, 9, 10, because I really, really want that place. That would not be my first choice. You know, Liz, that's a way to get somebody to stop ghosting you. Hey, I've tried to text you 3 or 4 times. I can't get you. Guess what? I'm going to show up in front of your house in a birthday cake.
We don't want to scare them. We just want to get them to get the chicken suit. Chicken suit sounds better.
Next, we'll talk a little bit of messaging in this, because I got some fun ones. By the time you get to like 5, 6, 7, 8 in that range, there's one that I love to go to that typically gets them to convert. Everybody got kind of a list of some things? So John, since we're using you as the example, because I decided to throw you in the hot seat today, what did you write down? What's the list that you would put together a campaign around for that audience?
Okay, so I have code email, code calling, text messaging, voicemail drop, pay-per-click, Google ads, postcards, door knocker, signs, and even a door hanger, or leave something on their door.
Okay, I agree. All of those could work for that type of audience. Next step would be putting importance levels. I would say maybe 2 or 3. What I mean by importance level is which one of these carries a greater value or greater chance of getting their attention.
Getting their attention or getting a response?
Getting their attention. Remember, what marketing's job is simply to do what?
To get their attention.
Get attention, bring awareness, raise awareness. That's it. The job of the tactic of marketing is to raise the awareness. It's the messaging. This is where sales overlaps and blends in. It's the job of the messaging to actually create the engagement, which triggers our actual sales conversation now. So like a high, medium, low, or a 1, 2, 3 kind of thing next to it. You can even look at it from a easeability. How easy is this tactic to get in front of them and get their attention? Now, cold calling versus cold emailing. Calling is going to be easier to get their attention than emailing, because I got to even get to their inbox.
No, and with that, I have to say, the texting is so easy and it is so non-threatening with people. And I really find, and then they realize, sure, there's some messages that are going out that are pre-done. They're there, but they instantly then realize I am a real person on the other end. And it changes. Just now I was just got somebody to schedule a call tomorrow because he realized I was a real person. And so I think texting is just golden.
And there's a number of those tactics out there that are that way, but we also can't live and die by the one tactic, right? Go back to my analogy. If I lived and died by the fact that I need to go left, I can't do anything else but go left and the road's blocked. Well, guess what? Or no, we weren't supposed to stop yet. This isn't our checkpoint, but I've got rounds firing all over us. Got to change course. Got to do something different, right? So John, what do you got as kind of your high priority, high probability, ease of getting their attention?
I have postcard, because that's what I'm doing. I want it to be easy. Let's see. Calling, knocking on the door, and texting.
Okay. So text, postcards, calling, knocking on door. 4 pretty high probabilities I can get their attention. Mail in a mailbox, bang a door, text a phone number, or call them, right? These are all high probabilities that I'm going to get their attention. Next step behind this is I know I need to get to at least 5 touch points. I don't want to build a campaign less than 5, but I also know 5 is like bare minimum. Ideally, I'd like to be at 6, 7, 8, right? So when I look at it that way, answer this question, John, is touch point number 1, 2, 3 super important? Or should the focus be more on 4, 5, 6, 7?
In wording and trying to close, or
just in the tactic?
I would say the latter ones are more important.
So if the latter of the deeper I get into this, the more important they become. The ones that are harder to do at scale should be where? In the front half or the back half of this campaign?
Back half.
Back half. Yet why do so many real estate investors jump straight to, I'm going to go do door knocking and cold door knock out of the gate? That's a hard one to do at scale. Would you guys agree? Now, is it very powerful? 100%. It's also a lot more powerful when you've had 4, 5, 6 other things get to them prior to you knocking on the door. So I would look at the ease in those first 3 or 4. So I already kind of know what your campaign starts to look like, John, because you and I have talked about this. Postcard is touch point number 1. Giving them on that postcard the option, or the ability, I should say, to have contact number 2 pretty easily. Scanning a QR code, a link, telling them the website, something like that. I'm a big fan of the QR code with a nice call to action above that. Giving them that ability to create contact number 2 themselves by going to our website. Because them visiting our website, that's them connecting. That's them making a contact with our business, right? Then ask yourself, all right, the real contact number 2, what's going to happen behind that? I mail out postcards, a couple weeks goes by, anybody that I haven't gotten a response from, what am I going to do for contact number 2 to them? Is that where the text message comes in? Is that where the cold phone call comes in, right? And then you ask yourself the same question. Let's say it's text. All right, 2 weeks after I send the postcard, I'm going to send them a text saying, hey, this is John with Rilo Homes, following up on, I sent you a postcard last week. Did you get it? Right, just trying to get in touch with them. Just trying to get their attention. And okay, I get a bunch of stops and no's, or no thanks, or yeah, I did, I'm not interested. Right? We can have those conversations. But then I look at that and go, okay, everybody that did not respond to that text message and either move into my funnel, or I'm able to cross them off and say they're dead. Contact number 3, what's next? Is that when I bring in the cold phone call? Hey, Sal, thanks for answering today. My name's John with Rilo Homes. Not sure, I sent you a postcard a couple weeks ago, and I think I even shot you a text last week. Just wanted to, kind of reach out, and hopefully you got those. If you didn't, no big deal. See what I'm saying? And then everybody that I cold call and I can't get in touch with or doesn't move forward, what's contact number 4 for them? Is that when I finally go door knock?
Voicemail drop.
Maybe it's the voicemail drop, or maybe it's, hey, I go back and I reuse another tactic that I used previous. Maybe I drop a different postcard or a different mailing to them. Maybe it's a different text message trying to get them to something on my website that's not necessarily, hey, contact me, right? Liz and Marie is a great example of this one. Maybe that's when I finally am like, hey, I've been trying to reach out to you. Just wanted to, show you how we could save you $10,000, how we can put 10,000 or more back in your pocket when selling. Go check this out instead. And if I gated that, I'll be able to see, hey, who didn't go there from that text. And now what's contact 5? Now is this the time when I finally start getting in the car and driving somewhere? Right? This is how you build the campaign. Ask yourself along the way, what am I going to do next for this person, and what makes sense based on? Now, in your case, you're targeting somebody that owns a property that doesn't live in it. So door knocking might become challenging as a tactic in this type of campaign if the majority of the people on that list don't even live there in your area, right? They're out-of-state owners. Does this make sense, folks? And when you built this out now, 5, 6, 7, 8 touches deep, when do you finally say this campaign was a success or this campaign failed?
After like the 9th or 10th touch.
Whatever your last touch was.
Well, they either make contact with you, or you engage them, or, Yeah.
But we got to get all the way through my last touch before I can really look back at the metrics of the campaign and go, okay, I started with 200. I had 200 names. I had 200 addresses. I had 200 contact people that I skip trace, got all this information, right? Had all this ready to go. 200 started this funnel and went down this marketing campaign. And when we got to the final one, we had 8 touches in this campaign. And when we got to the end of the 8th one, and after about a week or so after the 8th one, what happened? What's the result? How many moved into my process? How many did I write offers on? How many did I end up disqualifying and saying it wasn't a viable opportunity, out there? I couldn't make anything work. How many told me to, opt out, get away from me, kind of thing? And then I can look back at it, and now we can adjust and refine. You might notice in that data, if you're tracking it contact by contact, wow, we hit them with a cold call too early, it looks like, because the cold call, we got a bunch of people to hang up on us and go away and not answer us and then disappear completely, right? Block us, in essence. Maybe I should have waited and cold called deeper into it. But until you track to this level, or until you build a campaign to this level, it's really hard to dictate that, right? I didn't mean to cut you off, Sal. I was just trying to get that.
No, it's okay. No.
Go ahead.
No, you had a good point. I'm trying to think about, we have a texting campaign that goes on for 8 waves. And, for the majority of them, they're picking up, and they're picking, we can tell from the service we were using, which we're now going to start using, Leadvol, that they're picking it up and they're listening to it and they're not responding back. So my thought is, for Chris and I, is does that count as going to the next step, or do we just let this 8 waves keep going?
Well, so this is the problem with living by the sword, you die by the sword. If your entire campaign is solid around text messaging, because that's all I want to do is just text, and hide behind the automated text capabilities of a software, well, you'll convert, but you're going to be closer to that, 1, 3, 5%. So it's a lot of volume, right? How many of you guys like to watch video? If I were to slap something in front of you, all the information is the same, and I said, here's an audio to listen to, here's a video to listen to, here's the text to read. Which one of you reads it? Let me see your hands if you're going to choose to read it. Aaron, Terry. Who would listen to the audio? Gene, Liz, John. Who would hit, I'll watch the video to get that same information? So you see this small little group right here, same information, but there's 3 different ways that you would prefer to consume it. The same's happening in your marketing. Some people don't want to be marketed to via text. But if they got something in the mail, they're going to look at it. They might not answer you right away, but they'll at least look at it. I look at somebody like Deanna, my girlfriend. I'll tell you the best way to market to Deanna. Instagram ad between 6 p.m. and 10 p.m. And again, between midnight and 3 a.m. You hit her with a Facebook ad during those windows, you get her attention. Why? Because she's sitting on the couch at 6 to 10 p.m. scrolling around on Instagram. And she's notorious for clicking on an Instagram ad. She says it all the time. Stuff gets delivered to the house. Stupid Instagram ads. But you try to text her or cold call her, it ain't going anywhere. You try to mail something to our house. I've told you guys this story. You try to mail something to the house, half the time it gets kicked around, eventually gets picked up by the landscaper or something later in the week, thrown in the trash can. Nobody's looking at the mail. If the Instagram ad drove her to a blog, she won't read it. She'll click off of it. But if that Instagram ad drove her to a video, she'll sit there and watch it. So in your campaigns, you've got to understand that the person on the other end wants to consume and will consume if it fits the modality, the vehicle, right? The media source that they prefer. So my campaign has to be multifunctional or multi-diverse. So that's why, Sal, I wouldn't say run 8 waves of text messaging. I love that you're trying to get 8 touch points, but let's replace some of those text messages with other tactical outlets, right? Go ahead, Sophia.
Question.
Yep.
Would you recommend that we use these different tactics, but the same message, and then track like how many people had either responded or, reacted to it, I guess?
You mean like the same exact messaging across all 8 touches? No. Because your message needs to match the outlet.
Gotcha. Okay.
Your message also needs to match the level at which I'm in this touch point with them. If I've sent you 6, 7 things, by the time I get to message 8, this is where I was going to kind of end us with. One of my go-tos, by the time I get to like 6, 7, 8, 9 touches deep into a campaign, a lot of times, is I assume something bad happened to them. I'll do it in text message from time to time. I've done it in emails from time to time. I've left voice drops, and this works. It's something like this. Hey, Sophia, I've been trying to reach out to you over the last couple of weeks. All I can assume is one of 3 things have happened. A, you figured out the solution and you don't need any help. B, you're still banging your head against the wall and you wish you could find the right answer. Or C, you've fallen, and in which case I should probably call for help. Either way, let me know. Love to help you. I will get more laughs. That was funny. That got my attention. Sorry, I've been super busy. No, I didn't fall. I'm okay. Responses when I get to that point. But I can only pull that message off that because I'm that deep. Right, where I've hit them with a bunch of stuff that now I'm capable of assuming. If that came out at touch point 8, I can pretty much assume a handful of the other 7, you've seen them or heard it or listened to or read it, right? Depending on what the tactics were on there. You might not have gotten all of them. You might have paid attention to all of them, but I know enough of them hit that I can assume now. And I'm basically saying, I know you're ignoring me, but I'm having a little fun with it. Remember, go back to the picture that I shared. Get over here. By the time you're down to contact number 8, 7, 8 in this range, you're probably the only person still trying to contact them. That's why that message can work, because they finally are paying attention, because I'm actually one of the few people still popping up in front of them. So I want to leave a little bit of time for some Q&A.
One question. So as I look at this outline, and I'm looking at the automation for Lead Vault. So as I send one out, I'll see what comes back. My question is, if they hit the website, how do I know they do that besides filling something out? Or if they return an SMS, I know that because it's in the response.
Right.
Cold caller, it's their yes.
If they visit the website, I wouldn't worry.
Yeah.
Unless they fill out a form. And there's your answer to that. They filled out this form, right? They move something.
Well,
I allow them to create multiple contacts with me by just naturally visiting the website.
Okay. Is how to track them as they migrate through, because that would be something I would like to talk about tomorrow afternoon.
Yeah, I can actually show you a couple things in the automation, because you can actually build a manual action into your automation. Right? It could be, let's say the automations, hey, first thing out of the gate, I'm going to send them a postcard, and then a week later, they're going to dump into this automation I built in Lead Vault. And that first task that's coming out then is the text message or the voice drop or whatever it is, right? And then it's going to wait, and then it's going to text, and then it's going to wait. And then I could put a manual action or create a task at that phase and the task is like mail them a postcard. And then there's a wait step. And then they move off that wait step to the next thing, because if they happen to reply to the postcard that I sent, I can go in there and stop them. So you can even build your manual actions into the workflow, that in the event you mailed the postcard and you never heard nothing back from them, a week later, they come out of the next wait step kind of thing, and boom, the next contact point fires
It might
off.
be good to have a manual automation. That way.
Yep. But it's all one continuous flow, so that by the time it gets to the end, and then you can look at the history of it, and if you trigger, certain ones are triggered to, based on a reply, you tell it to stop, get them off of this thing, you'll have some pretty solid data. Could you automate the entire data point? No. There's going to be some manual data tracking or manual kind of going, but that's during your refinement phase. Let's say this campaign ended. Let's sit down and actually look at the campaign now in total. Look at some of the data, pull some data, go do some calculations on some things, and go, all right, if I'm going to relaunch this with another set of individuals, let me make these tweaks before I do it, because I think that might help us better on the next round of this. That's far better than just buying the list, texting 1 or 2 times, and then going, Sean, that Skippy doesn't give me good data. Bud's not on, but I had that talk with Bud earlier this morning. He's like, somebody told me they only got 1,200 contacts out of a 5,000 contact list. They only made 1,200 contacts. Like, bullshit. No, I agree. They called one time. Right. Any other questions?
Showing the slide that you showed the first time with the number of calls, there's statistical data across all sales positions that matches the same, because we had the same thing selling to doctors. We always said after the first 2 calls, most reps have decided, oh, that's a bad doctor, he doesn't do anything. So if you're the 5th or 6th, you keep calling on him, eventually you'll be the only one calling on him. So the data kind of goes across all these things, but it's all salesmanship.
100%. But it's not even just, they stopped because that person never answered on the first, 1 or 2 or 3. How many of you guys have gotten a lead in and gotten so sucked into that lead that 3 weeks have gone by and you're like, crap, I never did any other marketing in the last 3 weeks, and that lead turned into nothing? We've all been there, right? Especially early on, we got so excited. Oh my God, I'm a real estate investor. I got my first lead. And it went nowhere. And you're like, but that burned a month and I haven't done any other marketing. That's the other thing that happens. Your competition's doing the same thing. They're putting out a bunch of marketing. They're excited about it. But then they get that opportunity, or somebody calls, and the next thing you know, they forgot about touches 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and they never get back to it. Instead, they go get a new list and start remarketing to somebody different instead. So that's the other way to look at that.
Is there any special training that's needed on lead vault to do that automation stuff that you were talking about? Oh, that's something we can talk about tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow I'll actually, because it ties in today, I'll show. I'll build in our demo account. I'll just start building. If I can get to it tomorrow before the call, maybe have it built out so we can just look at it. What it might look like. Chris.
Would it be wise or almost the same? What if we did something similar to congruent? In other words, we send a text at the same time we fire off a postcard or a direct mail. We do 2 different tactics at the same exact time.
Yep. Okay. Now it's multi-touch. Doesn't have to be periods of time between it. I think, Liz, you guys did this a couple times and it worked pretty well. You voice drop and 30 seconds later hit them with a text. And the text was like, hey, just left you a voicemail, was trying to get in touch with you, kind of message. I use that tactic like crazy. If I'm going after somebody completely cold and I want to do kind of a text campaign on it, I'll do a ringless voice drop and like a minute later, 30 seconds later kind of thing. They drop into the cold text, and the whole cold text is just, hey, this is Sean with REI Toolbox, was just giving you a call. I left you a voicemail. And I'll get all kind of answers. Oh, I didn't see you called. Oh, sorry, currently busy, dealing with a seller. Can I give you a call in a little bit? I'll listen to it and I'll get back to you. These type of things. Remember, marketing's job is to what?
Attention.
Attention. Get their attention. That's it.
Awareness.
That's it. Anything else? If not, Gene and Kim, you guys can just stay on here. We'll just take our call right after this. But nobody's got anything else. I'm going to hit